This was alluded to on the streets of the Day X hearings. There was another ceasefire resolution at the UN that was vetoed by the United States. U.S. vetoes United Nations resolution calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. This report from CBS News. The United States on Tuesday vetoed an Arab-backed and widely supported UN resolution demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war in the embattled Gaza Strip, saying it would interfere with negotiations on a deal to free hostages abducted in Israel. The vote in the 15-member Security Council was 13-1, with the United Kingdom abstaining. So you had 13 vote for a ceasefire, the UK abstained, and we were once again the lone no vote, reflecting the strong support from countries around the globe for ending the more than 4-month war.
That's when you know your country is on the right side of history.
Yes, yeah. Well, same thing. I mean, they made that point.
Repeatedly blocking, the only one repeatedly blocking a ceasefire of a genocidal war with a horrific civilian body count.
Yep, and it's a very similar dynamic to what's going on in the Julian Assange case, as some of the speakers at Day X mentioned. More than once, you heard people saying, you have a ceasefire resolution at the UN. The United States is saying no, and the UK is being their nice little puppy dog by voting present. Same situation here. The US is pressing charges. The UK is not pressing charges, but they're doing our work for us, holding them there. Right. It was the third U.S. veto of a Security Council resolution demanding a ceasefire in Gaza, and came a day after the United States circulated a rival resolution that would support a temporary ceasefire in Gaza linked to the release of all hostages and call for the lifting of all restrictions on the delivery of humanitarian aid. A temporary, so that's our terms. We want a temporary ceasefire in exchange for a full hostage release. A full hostage release was on the table in exchange for a permanent ceasefire. You think you're going to get all your hostages back for a week or a month or 2 months, and then the bombing is going to continue? Permanent ceasefire is the terms that have to be agreed on, obviously. Before the vote, Algeria's UN ambassador Amar Benjama, the Arab representative on the council, said, "This resolution stands for truth and humanity, standing against the advocates for murder and hatred." Yes, a vote in favor of this draft resolution is a support to the Palestinians' right to life, he said. Conversely, voting against it implies an endorsement of the brutal violence and collective punishment inflicted against them. U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield said the United States understands the Council's desire for urgent action, but believes the resolution would negatively impact sensitive negotiations on a hostage deal and pause fighting for at least 6 weeks. If that happens, we can take the time to build a more enduring peace, she said. Let's hear from Linda Thomas-Greenfield at the UN.
Leading with the vote today was wishful and irresponsible. And so while we cannot support a resolution that would put sensitive negotiations in jeopardy, we look forward to engaging on a text that we believe will address so many of the concerns we all share, a text that can and should be adopted by the Council so that we can have a temporary ceasefire as soon as practicable based on the formula of all hostages being released. This temporary ceasefire is critical to getting aid into the hands of Palestinian civilians who desperately need it. We should look towards this text so that we can finally condemn Hamas for their horrific
attacks. There hasn't been enough of that.
On October 7th, which set this conflict into motion.
If I had gotten a personal interview with Stella, that was going to be my first question. Do you condemn Hamas?
Yeah, that was going to be the first question to her, indeed. Something we haven't really heard enough of. Here she is. File this under poor word choice of the year. Early frontrunner for poorest choice of words at any press conference behind any microphone this year.
We intend to do this the right way so that we can create the right conditions for a safer, more peaceful future. And we will continue to actively engage in the hard work of direct diplomacy on the ground until we reach a final solution.
Great. Nice one there. Real nice. Nice one. What was that?
Diplomacy on the ground until we reach a final solution.
Excellent work. Excellent work. You know, we've been coming off kind of insensitive and callous as a country until then. So it was great that you were able to put things so that way.
We reach a final solution.
Nice.
Oh, boy.
I mean,
That one
between
never gets
this and the Assange stuff and the Ukraine stuff, I mean, Claire Daly talked about this, Mick Wallace talked about this outside the DayX hearings. What an embarrassing time to be from the U.S. and the U.K. I mean, you see where global sentiment has gone. By the way, we didn't cover this, but good on Lula for saying what he said and pulling his ambassador to Israel. We're going to cover that on Sunday. We haven't forgotten about that.
And this is something we've been saying from the beginning, that that's what you're going to start to see. You're going to start to see people breaking off diplomatic relations with Israel. You're going to see more and more boycotts, more and more cancellation of trade deals, which Ireland and Spain are trying to push in the EU right now, arguing that the terms of their trade deals do not allow for trade with a country doing what Israel is doing, committing acts of genocide. That's whatever the outcome is in Gaza, and sadly, I think we can see what it's going to be. They're going to turn it into the surface of the moon, and they're going to scatter the population to the surrounding countries through U.S. bribery and pressure. That's what I would imagine is going to happen to Gaza. But Israel, as a member of the family of nations, is over.
Please clap.